What's going on, everybody? Josh Engleman for Awesemo.com, and I am back with my DraftKings Showdown breakdown for Monday Night Football's game between the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. So be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you know when this and all of our other content goes live. Follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman so you can get updates to the sim results as we get closer to lock. I'm thinking somewhere in the neighborhood of 7 p.m. Eastern Time, I will have my updates. You don't want to miss it. And finally, let me know in the comments section, who are your favorite options at captain and at utility for tonight's game? Some of the high-level information that we have. 123.7, that is the average fantasy points in the optimal winning lineup. Median salary used, $49,250. 3.2 Vikings, 2.8 Bears. That is the average makeup of the winning lineup. Vikings are 3.5-point favorites in Chicago with a 43-point total. That's kind of low. Opens you up to more kickers and defenses, but it's time to dive in. Here are my favorite captains. Now, even though the price tag is pretty significant, well higher than anybody else on the slate, it doesn't really matter. Dalvin Cook is the most likely captain option tonight. 23% of the time, Cook is in the optimal. He's got a monster projection, basically 7 points ahead of anybody else on the slate. Now, he's significantly more expensive. At the utility spot, he's $2,800 more expensive than Allen Robinson. I don't think it matters. He is very clearly the top fantasy option today. Now, be aware, 77% of the time, he is not the optimal captain, but he is the most frequent captain if you're just trying to pick one. After that, you get into a gigantic list of people that look the same. Listen to these percentages right now, trying to separate out 6 separate guys. Nick Foles, well, I'll go in order. Allen Robinson, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Nick Foles, Justin Jefferson, Cordarrelle Patterson, who's 7,800 at the captain spot. All of these guys have the following odds of being the optimal captain: 9.4, 8.8, 9.8, 8.0, 9.6, 8.8. Everybody is just jammed in between 8 to 10%. That's 6 separate guys. I can't separate them right now. We will need public ownership to make those distinctions. Love the idea of paying down to Cordarrelle Patterson at 7,800. That can really open you up to a more expensive utility build. The exact opposite works though too. You can easily go to someone like Allen Robinson in the captain spot at 16.2. It's going to make you have a little bit less money to go around at the utility, but it will also be a pretty unique build because you'll end up playing guys that are maybe less than desirable, a little bit less ownership. As of right now, Thielen and Justin Jefferson are the 2 highest percentages, but I wouldn't try to separate anybody from that pack of 6 guys. Now, as we go to the utility spot, there are 2 people that have hit north of 40% odds of being in the optimal at utility. One of those guys is Dalvin Cook at 13.6, shows up 49% of the time. He is quite clearly the best option at captain and at utility, the best option for the game. You know, pay attention to the ownership, I guess. If it gets really, really crazy, you might want to be a little bit late, but he's the best option and you should have a lot of him. Cordarrelle Patterson at 5,200 at utility is the best sort of value option you can find. Shows up in the optimal 41% of the time. Bears are dinged up. No David Montgomery. We don't know really what their backfield's going to look like, whether that's Ryan Nall, Lamar Miller, Artavis Pierce, Cordarrelle Patterson potentially. 41% of the time though, I really like the projection. I hope that holds, but really nice value in the mid-tier no matter what sort of lineup you're trying to build. And then we get into the sea of the guys in the mid-30s. Robinson, Cousins, Thielen, Foles, Jefferson, Dan Bailey, all somewhere in the 32 to 37% range of being in the utility. I like Foles and Jefferson quite a bit. I like Dan Bailey a lot because of that game total. It's supposed to be a close game, but 43-point total, pretty low. I think they could be relying on Dan Bailey quite a bit for some field goals. Shows up in the optimal 35% of the time, so we're talking about 1/3 of every time we play this slate, Dan Bailey is in the optimal. Keep an eye on that. Bailey definitely ahead of Santos for me. Not like it's huge, but he's only $200 more expensive. Almost a full fantasy point projection higher. You got to go to Bailey before you go to Santos. If you want to pay down, I think there are 3 options. Either the Bears or Vikings defense. Slightly prefer the Vikings defense just because they're a little bit cheaper, slightly better projection. Or you can go to 2K Alexander Madison. have him projected for just north of 6 fantasy points, shows up in the optimal about 24% of the time. So what we're saying is a quarter of the time you'll need Alexander Mattison. I don't really think there's anything below him that looks very good. You can go to someone like Chad Beebe at $1,000. Only shows up in the optimal 8% of the time. That's probably not enough for me. We're talking about a guy, maybe 1 out of a 20 max. I think the floor is real, as of right now, is really Alexander Mattison at 2K. I don't like any of the $100 type players. If we hear more about Lamar Miller, that might change, but Miller, Harris, Conklin, Cole Kmet, I don't think that they get there a little bit too cheap. I don't really like any of the guys in the thousands because I would just prefer Alexander Mattison that much more. So for right now, the floor, my pay down floor, Alexander Mattison. My favorite 2 plays at utility, Dalvin Cook, Cordarrelle Patterson. Well, as per usual, we do not have public ownership quite yet because I record this super early in the morning, so it's hard to point out fades. And right now, the only thing that I can say is Robinson, Cousins, Thielen, Foles, Jefferson, and Patterson, I guess. 1 or 2 of those guys is probably going to be well north of 10% ownership in the captain spot. Those are the guys that I'll just be lighter on, and I'll go to the other guys in the group. I don't have a huge preference. They're all really projected pretty similarly. So if you're playing a larger field GPP, don't be afraid to just go to other guys in that tier that aren't picking up the same amount of ownership. Now at the utility spot, it's a little different. I am not all that interested in Jimmy Graham at 7,200. I'll probably be a little light on someone like Darnell Mooney at 6,600. I don't have much interest at all in Ryan Nall at 6,200. That backfield is really cluttered, and his price tag is so significantly higher than some of the other options that I would rather just not go to Nall. Only shows up in the utility spot 8% of the time. That's not going to be for me. $3,400 Kyle Rudolph, probably a little bit more expensive. You can go to Bears D or Vikings D and get a little bit better of an outcome and probably lower ownership, or at the very least, the same ownership, but less likely to be in the optimal. So if we're talking holistic fades at the utility spot, Graham, Mooney, Nall, Kyle Rudolph, those are 4 guys that I don't have a ton of interest in right now. Alrighty, folks, that will do it. That is my DraftKings Showdown breakdown for Monday Night Football, Vikings, and Bears. One last time, please, please, please hit that like button. It helps out so much. Just hit the thumbs up. It's super easy. Subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, follow me on Twitter at Josh Engleman. You want the updates. If you're watching the video, why wouldn't you want the update closer to lock? 7 p.m. Eastern time, keep your eye out to my Twitter feed. And please, let me know in the comments section, who do you like at captain or at utility? Or let me know, who am I crazy to recommend at captain and utility? I will be back with this content again Thursday morning for Thursday Night Football. Good luck tonight, everybody. Go watch the FanDuel version of this video. There's a link around here somewhere. And I hope you can win some money. I hope that I can too. Adios.